Welcome everyone to this interactive podcast. Today we have Alexey Grigorev, who is
Hello.
principal data science in OLX, right?
That's right, yeah.
So we'll talk about Alexey's background and the history that he has been building to build up a career in data science, and what he's doing to promote data science for all of us. So, Alexey, what has brought you this far to become a principal data science in this company?
Oh, I don't know. Just one day my manager congratulated me that I got promotion, and this is how I become a principal data scientist.
How long have you been in this company?
So with OLX, I've been for 4 years. It was 4 years in October. So it's like 4 years and 1 month now. So first I started as a senior data scientist. I worked as a senior data scientist in the moderation team. So we were looking at images. Like let's say if somebody is trying to sell a gun, we of course don't want to let this happen. Or somebody is violating the rules in other way by, for example, adding contact information on the pictures. And by the way, for a bit of context, so OLX is online marketplace. So if you're listening from India or Ukraine or Poland, you probably know what OLX is. But for those who are from, I don't know, from the States, so in US you have Craigslist, right? In the UK you have Gumtree. So this is a platform where, let's say, if you want to sell your phone, you go and you publish a listing, and then people who are interested in buying your phone, and then they can. Yeah, that's online classifieds. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So Gumtree is our like competitors.
Okay. Yeah. And is there the marketplace of OLX?
So you can check olx.en.
Okay. You can control my screen if you click.
Can I?
Yeah. It's the Zoom capabilities.
But I cannot. Can I type? I can't even type. Wow, that's mind blowing.
Yeah, when I do my tutoring, I am all the time with this.
So that's one of our websites. So I am not a part of the team that is in charge of OLX India. This is a separate business unit. So we work at OLX Europe. So OLX Europe, we are in Poland, in Ukraine, in Portugal, in Romania, in Bulgaria, and then in a couple of other countries which are interestingly not European, like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, but we still consider them as a part of Europe.
And but yeah, when you're researching about the marketplace, is it hard to understand the language or?
It is. I don't speak Portuguese, so for me, then if I'm on Portuguese or Romanian website, of course I need to use a translator. I speak a bit of Polish. I can read Polish. I don't have any problems reading Polish, so then for me it's easy. In OLX Ukraine, so I speak Russian, and I understand Ukrainian, so it's also not difficult. But yeah, it's a challenge also because we work in so many different languages.
Areas.
Yeah, exactly.
OLX has a dedicated team for data science across all the branches, or?
So in Europe, we have a department, a data science department, which consists of many teams. And I think I started telling you about my career at OLX. So I started working in the moderation team. So the moderation team is, let's say you want to sell a phone. So you go to OLX, you put a title, you put description, you upload some images, and then you hit publish. And what happens in that moment is 10, 20 models, machine learning models, look at this ad. And each of them needs to conclude that this model is actually safe to go live. And if one model thinks that it's not safe, then it's either doesn't go live, like it's completely blocked, or it's sent to moderation. And moderators are people who look at this, so they see, okay, like this phone is strange, right? Because it's a duplicate of another phone, of another listing, who like with the same picture, with the same kind of phone. So let's check and see if actually this is a good thing. Like, should we let this thing go live or not? So this is the team where I worked. Sorry.
Is the same like the YouTube, Facebook do when people publish on social media and they need to check if the content is violating some rules,
Super
etc., right?
similar, yes. So the scale is of course different from Facebook and YouTube, but it's also a lot of content, right? Because every day millions of listings are uploaded and created. So
And
yeah.
sometimes it has to do more with the business that you are in than knowing the techniques itself, because here you are trying to see that the products they are selling are not duplicates from the original products, etc. Whereas in Google, they look in Google, YouTube, Facebook, they look, for example, for other things, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have to deal with all kind of stuff. Yeah, probably. You probably don't want to know with what kind of stuff moderators need to deal at OLX too. Like they see terrible things too. Because, yeah, like sometimes people, when you let people generate content, create content, they can do any sort of weird things. So, for example, it attracts fraudsters sometimes, so people who want to cheat other people. And for example, some of these fraudsters might post pictures, pornographic pictures, in order to get some attention. And then somebody sees, I don't know, pornographic picture, they click on this, and then they say, okay, play with me. And then you click on this link, and then of course they ask for some credit card details.
And
yeah, so we don't want this stuff on the platform, of course.
Before, I assumed that they were individuals who were looking at this content and labeling them to see this is not live, this is live, right? And so machine learning and data science helps to automate these tasks, I guess, right?
Exactly, that's right. So first, before data science, it was of course automated. It was automated with rules. Like, let's say if there is a word porn in the title, and it's not going to go live, right? But then, of course, fraudsters quickly started to learn that instead of O, you can write a 0 there, right?
Yeah.
Or like use instead of, I don't know, instead of N, you would use a letter that looks similar from a different language, from Cyrillics, for example.
Yeah, like in Spain, we have a saying which says, quien hace la ley hace la trampa. It's like, if you make the law, you also make the trap. So people always try to sneak into the system.
Of course, yeah. So machine learning helped to fight that, to fight these smart people, right? So who want to, because we cannot create a rule for every possible, for every possible variation of every possible word. And then machine learning helped with that. And it's actually an ongoing war, right? So we develop a model, we publish, and then fraudsters find a way to bypass this, and then we fix it. And yeah, so far, it's an interesting challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, because also like with the whole thing of Elon Musk taking over Twitter, I have seen many people posting how they check daily about the content that they publish. So I see that it has to do more with the current situation, how you research about the models, and you need to update the models to look at the upcoming trends that are coming to any platform, so that you can later recalculate those models to capture those variabilities, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, because I don't know, like I don't know in your mind, but in mine, I thought, okay, so if we just have machine learning models to do everything, the moment that we compute one machine learning model that is the best, we just sit and watch, right? But it's not the case, I guess.
It's not the case, yeah. It is definitely not the case. And we want to make our moderators more effective. But there are still many cases where like the model is not certain, right? So that, for example, the model thinks that there is a human on the picture with very high probability, but it could be a toy, right? It can be a Barbie doll.
Yeah, wow. Like it's really shocking to see these whole things. Which types of projects have you been working for in the company? Like some specific projects?
So, well, my career started at OLX, started working with image models, and then this is how I ended up in the moderation team. But then the problem with image models is they are quite difficult to deploy, right? They are deep learning models, and back then it was 4 years ago. I don't think there was a good consensus how to best deploy them. So we had to figure this out, and we ended up building our own serving platform for that. And I was leading this effort. So I my original background is a Java developer. And
Java.
then it happened, yes, Java, and then it happened to me that even though I was a data scientist, I was doing more and more engineering job. So then at the end, I ended up implementing this system for serving deep learning models. Then I also was in charge of another system for detecting duplicates, also image duplicates. And then I was getting more and more into engineering. And eventually what happened is I started to specialize into, post training. Okay, we train the model. What happens next in this deployment part? And now what I do as a principal data scientist is I don't work in any specific team with any specific project, but I try to work with everyone in the company, with all the data scientists. I try to help them be more productive and understand what is the best way for them to deploy their models, to productionize their models. So it's not only about deployment, but also best practices, sharing knowledge between teams, making sure that we are not reinventing the wheel, that teams are actually not working on the same things and things like that.
Wow, that takes a lot of job managing a lot of people. How many people, an estimate, are you advising in your company?
It's difficult to say. I think 30 maybe, something like that.
Wow.
I mean, it's the number of data scientists in the department. It doesn't mean I know what each single one of them works on. I don't. But usually, if they have problems that they don't know yet how to solve, then they come to us. We actually have a small team that helps with engineering. So they come to us, we help them, and we teach them how to do this. So next time they don't need to come to us, they just solve it. And we try to do it in such a way that it's the same. So one team comes to us, we show them the way, then another team comes to us, we show them the same way, and then at the end they do it in the same way. So there is no 2 or 3 ways to deploy the models, right? It's just one way.
Yeah.
And then it makes it easier to scale this knowledge.
That's true. Because I guess that it's pretty difficult when you have many people working on the code and everyone has their own style of writing the code. So at any moment that you want to make a code and be replicated across all of the products of the company, it makes it really hard, right?
It is, yeah. And we had problems with that. For example, we had a problem when one data engineer, I think he was sick or he wasn't available, right? And then there was a production issue. And then somebody from another team, from a different team, needed to help. But by the time they figured out how to help, that person recovered and came back, right? Wow. And we thought, okay, how can we avoid this? How can we make sure that it's easy for one engineer to move from one project to another and be helpful there? What kind of things, we can simplify to make it easier to jump from one project to another? And then this led to realization that we're doing the same thing differently in different projects. How can we make these things same?
The same way of operation.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. And so you started as senior data science in this company 4 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. What did you study?
I studied information systems, which is a fancy word for databases.
And your first step into data science, was it with Python or any other program or?
With Java.
Java. Data science with Java. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was 2012, right? So people didn't know how to do it.
And which type of operations did you do with Java? Like a data frame existed in Java?
No, there are no data frames. I mean, there are data frames, but you don't want to use them. You will use them. I mean, there is also Spark. Spark is written in Scala, and Scala is in Java. They're both JVM languages. So technically, you can use Spark data frame from Java. But I kind of was lucky because this thing only started. And for many companies, they have existing backends running in Java. And they want to integrate machine learning in these backends, right? And now we know that the best way for doing this is microservices, right? So you have a microservice in Python, you have your Java application, and then from Java, you just talk to this microservice in Python, and then this is how you work.
these operations are done with the cloud services, I guess, right?
Cloud
If you
services, yeah.
choose. Yeah.
But yeah, the idea is you have a service that hosts the model that is responsible only for this particular model or maybe other models, but it's a web service, and then you have your business application, your backend with Java or PHP or whatever. And then this PHP client sends an HTTP request to your microservice. So this is kind of how we do this typically, but 10 years ago, it wasn't clear that this is the way to do it. And many companies were embedding machine learning in their existing Java applications. And they needed somebody who knows both Java and machine learning. And usually Java was a little bit more important than machine learning because there were, I don't know, well, somehow I got lucky, I guess, that people saw that, okay, I know Java, I know a bit of machine learning because I did all these Coursera courses, also the one by Andrew Ng, that was my first course. And then they say, okay, well, we want to hire you. And this is how I became a freelancer. So I worked on a project, on a contract project.
So was this 10 years ago or?
Yeah, 10 years ago. Yeah. So
you become a freelancer and you knew Java and you were starting to do your first steps into machine learning, trying to.
So for me, it was a bunch of freelance projects. So I ended up doing like 10 maybe different freelance projects in Java and machine learning until I got my first full-time job in data science.
Wow. And which difficulties did you have at the beginning when you were doing these projects? Because I mean, in 2012, 13, I believe that there wasn't many tutorials out there about machine learning and how to integrate all of this into a single platform.
Yeah, well, I don't remember specific problems. I was also studying at the same time. So for me, I guess the problem was like, what should I study? Like, what should I study to be like a good data scientist? And I would study everything I could find. So I would do a lot of courses on Coursera. I enrolled in the master's program and I attended like the machine learning courses there. And at the end, it was a lot. And I cannot say that most of that was actually useful. Right?
Yeah, but
I was just, trying all different things, but what was useful was actually the work I was doing with Java, right? So actual practical thing.
Yeah, that's a problem that I see many people. I want to know what you think about many people doing many courses nowadays about the data science, machine learning, etc. But I don't see that they really grasp the sense of working in data science in a way, because in my case, I have learned the most working on projects. It hasn't been doing exercises or courses, etc. So what's your take on how should a beginner approach to get into data science if they want to learn and work at the same time in the field?
Yeah, do projects, like you said. I mean, for me, I was doing a lot of courses, but these courses didn't really have projects. And then I also happened to run courses. So we have a course about machine learning engineering. And the way we design this course is you have to do a project. You actually have to do 2 projects to graduate. And the only thing we look at when giving certificates is whether you did these 2 projects. So we don't care if you did homework. We don't care if you did all these videos, watched all these like modules. If you did 2 projects, then here's your certification. Yeah, wow. And I think this is really helpful. And of course, we try to help to select a data set, but we teach swimming by throwing people in the pool and then watching that they don't drown. Yeah,
that's a very good metaphor.
So if they need help, if we see that they are struggling to swim, of course we give them like a stick and pull them out of the swimming pool, and then we explain some things. Okay, you're not doing this thing right. Like you don't forget that you need to do like cross-validation or you will overfit, and then we throw them back to the pool.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and I see that this happens a lot in data, that there is not an exact path to learn anything, because many of the problems are more related to the domain knowledge, like for example finance or medicine, biology, etc. and the data part is a complementary topic, you know, and also it's the programming part. So it's pretty amazing to be in this field, because you can learn about many other fields, and you still cannot say that you know. You still need to learn everything all the time.
That's right. So even after 4 years at OLX, I'm still learning new things about how online marketplaces work and what kind of things you can do there. But after 4 years, of course, I know the business quite well, like how these things work. Like I have the business knowledge, but still every day I learn something new, and that's amazing.
Yeah. And also, what do you think companies want in the people so that they can hire them? What do you think the companies are looking for in the people?
Skills,
like
problem solving skills.
And how can they show that?
Projects.
And yeah, I also, you see that people are really conscious about this, because I see that many people in the LinkedIn, they put certificates. Okay, I've done this course, blah, blah, blah. But I don't see many people sharing their GitHub projects, etc. So I don't know.
I mean, both are cool, right? So a certificate is also, it gives you a sense of achievement. So like without a certificate, it won't be as fun. But I think courses, projects are more important.
Yeah. And have you been part of a hiring process?
Yeah. So if, let's say, I was also hiring, so I was hiring all levels. I was hiring trainees, I was hiring students, I was hiring juniors, middle level, senior, and also like even up to principal. And when it comes to hiring juniors and trainees, having a project is crucial. Because if you don't have a project, if you don't have past experience, then it's a bit awkward. Like, what do we talk about on the interview? Right? Of course, I can grill you on the theory, but you don't want to. You don't want that, right? So you want to have a project to talk about. And usually, I start interviews by, of course, like we introduce each other. So I say a few words about myself, and the the candidate interviews themselves, and then I ask, okay, tell me about your past experience. What kind of projects you worked on? And if you didn't work on any projects, then it's kind of awkward, right? Okay, well, what do we spend? Like, how do we spend the rest of the hour for this interview?
Yeah, well, it's very shocking. I mean, I hope that many listeners could really take this into account, because I see that they say, okay, I want to get into data science. Maybe I want to get into a master's. Maybe I want to get this course. But in the end, if you could just get into a project, and getting into a project is, you get a data set and you start working on a developing application, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's like you don't need to be super creative. Of course, creativity is welcome, but you can just go to Kaggle and take any active competitions and look at what other people do and just repeat what they do and learn. Not mindlessly repeat, but understand what they do, right? Take a kernel in Kaggle and try to go through each of the lines there and understand every single line. Maybe rewrite these lines. So for me, because when I was also taking part in Kaggle competitions, a lot of people publish their code, but this code for me was very difficult to understand. So what I did, I would take a look at the kernel at a notebook, and then I would try to understand every single line. And if I don't understand the line, I try to rewrite it in such a way that I understand it. And then at the end, yeah, I guess it really helped me understand how things work.
Your account, or?
That's not me.
No, I was looking for
I can. Do I still have control?
Yeah, sure.
Does it work like that? No. Like I'm trying to find like users. So maybe let's.
Take your time, don't worry. I think maybe, yeah.
I think this is my nickname there. That's me, for example. That's my. So this is my kernel. So this is the code I released. And this has an interesting story. So there was a competition, and in this competition, so somebody released a code in TensorFlow, and it was not super readable. So what I did is I took this code and I cleaned it, I made it more understandable, and then I released. So I just took somebody else's code and just slightly changed it.
So
added names, and then published it back. And this way, by doing this, I learned a lot about this problem. I learned a few things about TensorFlow, and I gave back to the community. And you saw how many upvotes that kernel had.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty interesting because, I mean, people could take this strategic way of learning, because what you did was, so I go into Kaggle to look for a competition about any data set. I look for someone else's code. I take note about learning which specific topics they were doing in every line, if I didn't understand anything. And then I try to make it clearer for anyone to see.
Yeah, that's a good summary.
Well, that's good. That's pretty good. So take the advice here from Alexey.
Yeah, and then
like
the most important thing is, like, when you have an interview, you can talk about this. You can explain what the problem was. Like, what this company that was hosting the competition, what was the problem? What was they trying to achieve with the machine learning? So with this particular case, Mercari is actually, it's relevant. I think this is also online classifieds. Yeah, so it's a price prediction competition. So for a product, they wanted to understand what should be the price for this product. Right, so it's pretty similar. So then imagine you're interviewing with OLX and you tell me about this project that you built, you took part in a competition, and the goal was to predict price for a product. And then all of a sudden we have a topic that we can both talk about, right? So I can ask you things about this and you can answer these things because you took part in this competition. And then at the end, of course, I walk out of the interview with a very positive impression because I talked with somebody who has not only some domain knowledge, but they also know how to apply machine learning to solve this problem.
Yeah, so it's more about getting in one project, learning everything about the project and thinking about the value that you can provide with the project. It's not just you do the code and then that's all done. Because I see many people focused on, I want to get the best accuracy, and that's it. If I get the best accuracy, I'm done. But
I don't care about accuracy. Well, I do care. Like, let's say if you finish with a gold medal in Kaggle, I know how much effort it is to finish. But if somebody didn't finish with a gold medal, that doesn't mean they are not worth talking to, right? So, because I know that if you want to finish in top 10 in a Kaggle competition, what kind of things you need to do, right? These are things that are very far from production. Yeah. So for me, yeah, it's
not everyone will hire people who have in the 10 position of the Kaggle. I mean, anyone can have work on a problem and provide a really good value that is not on the 10 first people in the Kaggle competition. So I read a statement that a few days ago that it said it's better to read a book and take notes about the book and learn it all the way than just reading 10 books and finish them without knowing really anything. So I believe that is happening kind of the same with data science. Like people rushing with the courses. I'm going to take this course, data analytics with Google, data analytics with IBM, whatever, this cloud microservices in Amazon. But it's more about providing the value with the data, and then in the middle of it, you accumulate a lot of experience in different technologies, and then you provide value.
I wouldn't care like what was your position, or was it even an active competition or not. As long as you learned something and we had a topic to talk about, then it's fine. So Kaggle is cool. So this is an easy way. So you just go there, pick a data set, pick a competition you like, and then learn about this competition. There's a lot of information. The other way that is more time consuming, but even more beneficial, is you come up with a problem yourself. You think, okay, like, what is my problem that I have right now? So for example, I don't know, you're looking for a flat. And then you can try to find a data set that is about your problem. Like, I don't know, flats in Berlin and their prices. And maybe you can find a model. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there are some data sets about that.
Applied flats in Moscow, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And then you build a model for that, right? So then it's not like you just picked a random data set, but you pick something that you care about, and then you build the model. But then with Kaggle, another problem is in Kaggle you only focus on modeling, but that's not the end of the project, right? So after you have a model, that's only, I don't know, 30% of job done, right? So there is still a lot of work left after that. So if you're more interested in, let's say, not data science work, but machine learning engineering, you shouldn't stop at that. You shouldn't stop. So you need to learn how to deploy your model. And then this is something you will not see on Kaggle. This is something you can take a model from Kaggle, but then learn how to do this. Like it
Yeah.
can be as simple as taking a Flask application and then putting the model there and serving it. But you can also learn about things like Kubernetes or I don't know, things like that.
Because I mean, the Kaggle doesn't allow you to deploy the models, but you, for example, could develop your deployment in another project in your computer and then make it available in some domain, and then put the code on GitHub so they can show you in.
I mean, you don't even have to deploy it. If it's on GitHub, and then I, as a hiring manager, can go and check it, and I can see description, like good README. I think this is another important aspect that you don't necessarily get on Kaggle. Is like, how do you package this in a way that it's attractive to me as a hiring manager? And usually a good way of doing this is putting this on GitHub and having a very good README that describes what the problem is, how you solve it, what kind of data is there, and maybe I can show you an example.
Yeah.
Oh, you have an example, right?
I have an example, but let's take yours. You go. You can control the screen 1 second. There you go.
Okay, I will show an example of our courses, because some of the students created really good projects, and I think these are very, very good examples. So I'm sure that when the students talk to hiring managers, the hiring managers love the projects. And okay, let me try to find it. So for example, one of the so try to go to last year projects. Yeah, midterm project, for example. And then I will take a random project. I don't remember which of them are good, which of them are not. Let me find.
So in the meantime, this is a project that of your Zoom camp, right?
Yeah, that's some of the students.
Community that you're trying to promote, where people can learn. Was it free, right?
Yeah, it was free. Yeah. So like this is already, like you see that there is some description what the problem is about, right? So then there's data set description, then some preparation work, how you prepare the environment. Like you need to install ppenv, you need to run ppenv, Docker, and then like how you test your model. Of course, they could describe more things. I would actually describe more.
So this is something that they did. They write it up. They write it up.
Yeah. So I didn't take any part there. So they started from. So what the students needed to do is they needed to find a data set. Maybe I can. Like, where is it?
Sure. You go.
I cannot find it. Should I just? No, I think it was here, right? So I need to go back here. And we could see, yeah, these are the deliverables. So this is what they needed to do. So they needed to find a data set, right? Then they needed to describe the problem they are trying to solve. They needed to put all the instructions that are needed for running the project. Then like the notebook for training the model, the script for training the model, the script for serving the model, and like Docker and ppenv for packaging. So they had to put everything, and they needed to describe every single step on how to do all that thing and how to deploy it in the environment of their choice. And if I take another project, maybe it will.
How long does it take to write up a project like this?
If I mean, they had 2 weeks to do this.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can do it. You can take more time. You can take less time. That's another project. Running instructions. Yeah, so here we also don't have instruction how to deploy this. But yeah, I think this is a very good project too, the description. Maybe I can take a look at another one. I'm just clicking completely.
Yeah, sure. Don't worry. Like so that people can see that there are many projects here that they can look at.
Of course, and it doesn't have to be ideal, right? But the more information you put in your README, the easier it is to stand out for you. And for example, this one, I think it's a good one, right? So that you see there are pictures and the data description, like a lot of information, like what is actually in that project. It's not a bunch of files. There is actually a description what each of these files does, right? So this is preparing everything, like training the model, building Docker image. And then, yeah, this is the interesting thing. This is what I was looking for. So it doesn't stop at that. It doesn't stop at, okay, you build your Docker image and that's it, right? So this project, so I don't know. So this person is showing how to actually deploy it to Heroku. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe there is an...
and as a hiring manager, so someone sends a curriculum, right? Do human resources look at the curriculum and then they pass on to you, or you are the one who checks it the first time?
So I get a CV. This is what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So I get a CV. So the process works like that. So first, a person applies, or recruiters reach out to that person. And then there is CV screening phase. When you apply through the website, your CV, like a recruiter looks at your CV and understands that you're actually a good fit for the position. Right? And if a recruiter reaches out to you on LinkedIn, then yeah, of course, you're already, you kind of passed the CV screening. So that's the first step. The second step is the talk with...
One second. The recruiter is a person from the team that is working with the code, or is a human resource person?
So we call it talent acquisition.
Okay.
So I guess human resources, yes.
And also it depends from the company as well, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. And one question also, because I see many people focusing on getting certificates, etc. Is it that relevant to get a certificate to pass this CV screening or a master's, or to have some background in, I don't know, maths or engineering or whatever, or it's fine if you don't have any background but you have some projects?
Yeah, you don't need to have background. Like, I mean, I don't care about certificates. I don't care where you studied. What I care is whether you know things that you will need to do at work. And then the easiest way to see is just open your project. And then I usually don't go in details and all. Like I just see, okay, before an interview, I don't have time to go through the project in details and execute every single line and check how they work. But what I have time is go through this, right? So I can go through a README and understand what the project is about and what you actually did there. And so for that, I can find 2 or 3 minutes, right? And then I would ask, during the interview, tell me about this project that I saw on your GitHub. Or maybe I will even ask, can you tell me about, I don't know, a project you're proud of, right? So it doesn't have to be the same project I saw in your GitHub. Many people don't have any projects on GitHub, right? It doesn't mean like if you don't have a project on GitHub, you will not get an interview. You still might have an interview, but because often it happens, for example, I was a freelancer. I couldn't post these projects online, right? Because that was work I was doing for a client. And so the code is clients, not mine. I couldn't post it to GitHub. So I didn't have a portfolio. I mean, I have my master thesis, but apart from that, I didn't have any projects.
How could you tell in the CV that you were working in this project? Just put the CV and...
Just write it.
Yeah, okay. Good. Yeah, and then in the interview, they will ask you about how did you do this project?
Of course, yeah. I will ask about all these things on the interview. Of course, if this is your pet project and you put everything online in open source, that's a big plus to me.
Yeah.
Because I love open source.
Contributing.
And it makes it very easy to just check and see what you worked on. But yeah, like circumstances are different. People are also different. So let's say if you're already working now, it doesn't mean you have to have an open portfolio. But you probably, as a part of your work, you worked on a project. And so I also consider this a portfolio, right? So projects I worked at OLX, they are not open projects, right? So this is the property of the company.
There is still a project.
But yeah, I still consider them my portfolio, right?
Okay.
So I can talk to, when I interview with somebody, if I interview with somebody and they ask me about this, I will tell, no, I will not, of course, tell a lot, but maybe only high-level overview of what this project is about. And that's sufficient. That's already a topic for discussion, right? Because if you tell me about a project you did for moderation, I will start asking you about, I don't know, like, why did you decide to do it this way, not that way? And then we have a topic to talk about, right?
It depends on the approach and the initial problem that you want to solve, if the project is worth it or not. And that's really valuable for companies because they want to make the processes efficient. They want to earn more resources, to optimize the resources so that they can focus on other things more creatively. Sorry that I got you before. So we're talking about this hiring process in which someone sends an application to the CV, it's screened by someone, and then what happened?
Then there is an interview with a recruiter.
Okay. So, and the recruiter is normally part of the coding team, or?
No, this is not a technical person.
Okay.
The recruiter
is
is
soft skill. Okay.
Like this is a person who is in charge of hiring or finding candidates. So you can call them talent acquisition team. Some people call them HR. Some people call them recruiters. So I call them recruiters.
And which type of questions are in these type interviews with the recruiters?
Why are you looking for a new job, or why are you interested in working in our company? What do you know about our company already?
Because
like
I
things
guess
like
that working
when
in
can
code,
you start?
Companies look for people who can be on the long term, right? Because they would learn how the company works, the style of coding, so that you can bet for a person on the longer run. Is it really problematic to have people who transition quickly, or?
Not to me, because I was also jumping from one job to another quite often until I settled down. I mean, when you start your career, that's often the case. Right? So people, before they find the place that really works well for them, for both parties, right? For both the employee and the employer, like it can take time. And then there are life circumstances, right? And then oftentimes what happens is people who just start their career, they don't get a lot of money, and then it's very difficult to get promoted in the same company, right? And then the easiest thing to get promoted is like half a year after, go join another company that pays 2 times more. I don't judge. I mean, I have done that. I did this too.
Totally. So after this interview with a recruiter, if they pass the interview, what do they do?
So then it depends. Usually in, let's say in our case, they would get a technical screening interview with me. And in that technical screening, I would ask about the projects. Like, tell me about the project you're proud of, and then we will walk through this project. I will ask a lot of technical questions, and I will start digging deep. Like, why did you use this model? What kind of other models did you use? Like, what is the difference between these two models? Like, how did you tune this model? Or like, and I would, with each question, I will try to ask more questions. I'll try to go deep to really understand, like, to what extent you, and then if you don't know, it's also fine, right? So like just say,
also that's also a hot topic, because I see many people trying to fill the gap that they rather tell that something, even making up something, even though they don't know, instead of saying, sorry, I don't know this. Have you had these experiences?
Yeah, it's to me, it's totally fine, because let's say we are talking about the project that we have here, right? So this person had only 2 weeks to complete this project, right? They couldn't know everything that is there, right? So they had very limited amount of time. And then like an answer, okay, I just used this model, it gave me good performance, but I don't know how it works. I just know how to use it. That's a good and honest answer, right?
Yeah, and you see people trying to answer that they know the model when they really don't?
Yeah, that happens. And then like I clearly see this by asking a few follow-up questions, and I say, okay, they have no clue what they are talking about.
So it's better to say that you don't know rather than saying that you know when you don't. Good.
Of course, and then I understand. So what we do at work is sometimes we have hackathons. And a hackathon is a way to artificially create like a deadline So you kind of squeeze yourself in 1 week to come up with something, and then you neglect other things. Right? And then you have a project and you cut corners to actually get there.
Wow.
And then many things you don't have time to go deeper. You just focus on solving a specific problem. And that is fine, right? So you don't need to know how a specific library works as long as it solves your problem. Right?
And you provide value. Yeah.
Exactly.
So after this technical interview, you would summarize all of the interviews and choose the best.
So on this
candidate,
technical interview, I didn't actually. So that's one part, right? And then another part of that technical interview is a Python exercise.
Okay.
So live coding. I ask to solve a simple problem in Python. I will not tell you what this problem is because this is the same for every interview, no matter if you're for a junior position or senior or principal. I will ask you the same question. And this is a relatively simple question. Relatively not, it's not simple for everyone, but I understand that we're not all the same, right? So it's okay if you take to solve this problem like 20 minutes and not 5 minutes. Like some people would solve it in 2 minutes. Some people would solve it in 20, and that's fine, right?
Yeah, you like to see more how they do the code, right?
Yeah, and that I know that people are nervous during the interview. Some people are not. Most people are, right? And it's fine. We're all people.
Yeah.
It's okay to be nervous on the interview.
Yeah, also because sometimes I get students that they tell me, hey, I want to learn neural networks because this for loop isn't working for me, blah, blah, blah. And then I ask him, okay, so before getting into neural networks, you need to know many other things. So make me a decision tree with this data set without looking at Google. And they aren't able even to understand the library. They messed up with the sklearn because it's a K in the middle and they don't know how to do it. But there are tricks that if you know how to work with the computer, you get to these answers. So that's what I believe it makes a good programmer, the way that you work around the computer. So good.
And the problem I ask requires a for loop and a couple of if statements. At the end, it seems simple, but sometimes in order to arrive to the solution, it takes a bit of time. But yeah, it's a rather simple problem, I would say. And then there I check how people think, how they approach problems, how they ask clarifying questions. And then I'm talking about data scientists here because the interview for a machine learning engineer is a little bit different. So then the next step would be hiring manager interview. And these are like, you can call them behavioral interviews or soft skill interviews, but there is the purpose there is to determine like how well you will fit a team, how well you work in the team. And the questions there are, okay, like tell me about time when you needed to work with a difficult stakeholder. Well, I guess this is for seniors, right? But for juniors could be like, tell me about the project you did with somebody.
How you
your
collaborate,
group, right? How did you collaborate exactly?
Yeah,
like how did you split responsibilities? Or tell me about time you helped somebody, right?
Yeah,
like that.
That's great. Good.
That's and then after that, we also have a home assignment.
That's good. So it's a really good, a really complete process until you make the final decisions.
And then after that, we look at the code and then we make the decision whether we hire this person or not.
Yeah, it takes time, but yeah, I mean, that doing the projects or getting the certifications is the beginning. And also, don't you think that people learn the most in the job, right?
No, of course. This is how I learned, right?
Totally. So really good, all of this hiring process theory. Like, I hope that really people can get a lot of value because, for example, me, I didn't know these things before. So thanks for this, Alexey. There is a thing that I wanted to talk as well about DataTalks, because this is a community that you were building since how long?
2 years, probably.
2 years
it
ago.
Started during COVID.
And what do you try to achieve with this community?
To have a place for everyone to talk about data topics. So it could be.
I was researching here, and you do a lot of events, right?
That's right.
Like here, for example, 11th of November, which is tomorrow, many others, then the 15th. What do you do in these events?
So this one is a podcast interview, like the one we have right now. And then we will actually have 2 tomorrow because we didn't have one last week, right? So we try to have an event each week. And yeah, so this we have interviews, podcast interviews. Then they got converted to audio-only podcasts. Like, I don't know, we upload them to Spotify and Apple and whatnot. And then we also have webinars. So webinars are events with slides. And we also have workshops. So you see that there are different emojis there, right? So there is a microphone, which is a
because
podcast.
of the icon. Okay.
Yeah, right. It's confusing for many people, but this is like
maybe
the
you can put
code.
A legend somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, this thing like at the end, you see this like the tool. Yeah. It is a workshop. So a workshop is we show you how to do something. So here we show you how to use Prometheus, which is a time series database that you use for monitoring applications. So Jessica and Vanessa will do a workshop. They will show how to use this. So let's say you have a project in Python. It uses Fast API. It uses, I don't know, something else. They will show you how to add observability to that application.
Yeah, well, that's quite good. A lot of people join these spaces?
Sometimes a lot, sometimes no. Like usually it's around 20 people. Sometimes it's 100. So it depends.
Nice. So anyone listening, you know where to go if you want to learn live sessions, workshops, podcasts about the field, and some webinars as well. So let's now concede time for the participants here. Arias and Som, would you like to ask some questions to Alexey? I think.
Yeah, actually, I have a question.
You go.
Can I go? Yeah.
Sure.
So as a beginner, when we were talking about projects, what kind of projects do you expect from a beginner?
Like, as I said, just take any project from Kaggle and find a way to solve it. Like, I mean, that's as simple as that. Like, it doesn't have to be like a super complex thing. Just, I don't know, understand the data, understand what the problem is about, and then train a logistic regression, then train a random forest on that.
And
see what is deploy, yes, but that's again, the question was about a beginner, and depends what kind of beginner. So if you're a beginner data scientist or beginner machine learning engineer, right? So if a machine learning engineer, of course, you have to deploy it, right? But for data scientists, maybe it's less important. That will be a big plus if a data scientist shows me that they actually took our course and know now about Kubernetes, right? So that's like immediately a big plus. But we don't expect data scientists to know about Kubernetes, right? Yeah. So just do a project on Kaggle, and if you deploy, like if you create a simple Flask application, you don't need to do Kubernetes. You don't need to do all this cloud stuff. Just put this in Flask and put this in Docker, and that's already like it gives you, it puts you in like a few steps ahead of other data scientists who don't typically do this. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess that's the main advice. I don't know what else to add there. Just take a project, try to understand the data set. Yeah. It's not as simple. It's not as difficult as it sounds, right? Yeah. Of course, doing courses is easy, right? Because you just have to follow what they tell you. But yeah, you cannot learn swim by taking courses.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, to me even because I am a tutor as well, I think I'm gonna have to change the perspective because I'm really taking a lot of insights from you, like how it's really it's better to train people so that they are fit for a company and then start working, because I believe that they learn most in the companies.
But taking this metaphor of swimming, right? So usually, like for example, when I showed my son how to swim, first I showed him how he should move before he goes to water, right?
Yeah.
And then he kind of learns, okay, this is what I should do when I go to the water. And then he goes, and then he tries to repeat. Yeah. And luckily I'm there to help him, right?
To catch up. Yeah, because sometimes people think that they need to learn something before getting into these things, so they make a huge mess, and they get frustrated, they drop the project, whatever. But yeah, that's where the
courses. What I was trying to say is courses are important, right? So you of course can learn everything by just jumping in the water and figuring out what you should do. But if you know in advance what kind of moves you need to make, then you will probably the likelihood of drowning is smaller.
much less. Yeah. Totally. Okay, so any more questions here? I assume none. So Alexey, thanks a lot for your time. I don't know if you want to say a few last words, maybe?
Yeah, if you're interested in data engineering, you see this blue bar, right? At the beginning.
Here?
Yeah, this one.
Data engineering. So
yeah,
register
exactly.
here if you want to work this data engineering thumb camp, where you can work in this project.
No, this is ML Zoom Camp. Right? So
Okay,
this
so
is
they are
machine learning.
different.
But data engineering is if you want to learn about building data pipelines. So it's not a machine learning course.
Okay.
But we
So
also have this. So we have 3 courses so far. We have a course about machine learning engineering. So this is where you learn how to train a model and deploy it. Then we have data engineering. So in that course, you learn how to prepare a model, how to put it in a database, right? And then we have ML Ops Zoom Camp. In ML Ops Zoom Camp, it's focused on productionizing the model. So we don't cover training models at all. So this is a prerequisite, and we show all things that are related to deploying, monitoring, experiment tracking, all these things.
Yeah.
Like we show you the things that you need to know to make machine learning projects more, simpler, effective.
Good. So just so you know, register here and start writing the code. Thank you so much, and I'll see you there on the next podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Bye, everyone.
Pleasure. I really enjoy a lot and learn. So thanks, Alexey. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.